Act 1. The comparison room opens. Ding! The live comparison room is now open. This broadcast will showcase the life of Uchiha Sasuke, the last remaining descendant of the Uchiha clan, across both this world and a parallel universe. The silver-framed screen on the left displays Uchiha Sasuke of the original world. The gold-framed screen on the right displays Uchiha Sasuke of the parallel world. Aggressive behavior is strictly prohibited during the viewing. A Q&A session with exclusive prizes will take place during the broadcast. Please participate actively. Rewards include ninjutsu, secret techniques, Kekkei Genkai, and more. The chat room is now online. Retrieving relevant individuals. Retrieval complete. You may now speak freely. Act 2. Chaos at the Chunin Exams. Konoha Year 60. The Chunin Exam Arena. Orochimaru was completely frozen in embarrassment. Just a moment ago, with a grand wave of his hand, he had officially launched the Konoha Crush plan. He had ripped off his disguise as the Kazekage, ready to kidnap his former master and engage in a fateful duel of life and death. But suddenly, he couldn't move a muscle. Two massive screens had materialized out of thin air, one silver and one gold, accompanied by a booming voice that echoed across the entire ninja world. Sitting nearby, Sarutobi Hiruzen was filled with shock and rage. He glared at his former student. Orochimaru, you actually dared to assassinate and impersonate the Kazekage? Is this another one of your wicked, forbidden techniques? Hiruzen felt an invisible, overwhelming force pinning him to his seat. If he could move, he would have already summoned the Enma Vajra staff to strike the traitor down. Orochimaru sneered. Sarutobi-sensei, has old age finally clouded your mind? Two massive screens appear in the sky, and a mysterious voice echoes in everyone's ears. Do you honestly think I possess that kind of power? Though he couldn't grasp the situation, Orochimaru remained calm. If neither he nor Hiruzen had the power to cause this, then the entire ninja world was in the same boat. Panicking was useless. It was better to observe and analyze. Act 3. Voices from the Pure Land. In the newly opened chat room, the dead began to speak. Senju Hashirama. A live comparison room? What is this? Even a dead man like me can see it. Senju Tobarama. The last descendant of the Uchiha? Does that mean the Uchiha clan was completely wiped out, leaving only one survivor? Humph. Truly an inherently evil clan. To think they pushed things far enough to cause their own extinction. Senju Hashirama. Tobarama. How many times have I told you to stop treating the Uchiha with such hostility? Senju Tobarama. Humph. Uchiha Madara. The moment they refused to leave Konoha with me, their fate was sealed. It is entirely expected. No doubt that bastard Tobarama kept targeting them until they were pushed to the brink. Senju Hashirama. Madara, you're here too? Long time no see, my friend. Senju Tobarama. How dare you slander me, Madara? I did not target the Uchiha. Their own inner darkness brought about their ruin. What does that have to do with me? Uchiha Madara. Whether you targeted them or not, you know the truth in your own treacherous heart. Senju Hashirama. Madara, Tobarama. Please, stop fighting already. Deep within the Pure Land, the first Hokage sighed. He never imagined that even in death, he would still have to break up fights between his brother and his rival. Inoki, unbelievable. This screen can actually summon the souls of legendary ninjas from the Pure Land? What terrifying power. The fourth Hokage. And here I thought it was just another underhanded plot by Konoha. Terumi Mei. We can see the gold and silver screens perfectly here in Kirigakure as well. Everyone has been immobilized. This is far beyond the capabilities of any ordinary ninja. Raza, is Orochimaru present? You absolute bastard. You ambushed and murdered me. To all Sunagakure ninjas, abort the mission immediately. Do not trust a single word out of Orochimaru's mouth. Back in the real world, the Sunagakure ninjas were completely paralyzed with shock. Only now did they realize their true leader, the fourth Kazekage, was already dead. The man sitting on the stage was an imposter, Sarutobi Hiruzen. What mission? Kazekage. What exactly were you and Orochimaru plotting behind Konoha's back? Orochimaru. Heh. What else? The complete destruction of Konoha, of course. Senju Tobarama. Destroy Konoha? You must be Orochimaru. I recall you were the brat who dared disturb our rest using the Edo Tensei. Another wicked child. Sarutobi Hiruzen. Forgive me, teacher. Orochimaru was my student. He defected years ago after conducting horrific human experiments. He holds a deep grudge against the village because I failed to guide him properly. Senju Tobarama. Speaking of which, monkey, how long have you been sitting in that chair? Are you still the Hokage? Sarutobi Hiruzen. Yes, teacher. We are currently in Konoha Year 60, holding the Chunin Exams. The Uchiha Sasuke mentioned by the screen is one of the genin participating today. Senju Hashirama. Oh, 60 years already? It seems Konoha has truly grown and flourished. Uchiha Mikoto. Sasuke. Can you hear me, my son? It has been 5 long years. I wonder how you are doing. Uzumaki Kushina. What? Mikoto, are you dead too? Uchiha Mikoto. Yes, Kushina. Only Itachi and Sasuke are left of our clan now. Uzumaki Kushina. That is horrible. I wonder how my sweet little Naruto is doing. Uchiha Sasuke. Mother. In the arena, Sasuke's eyes welled with tears. 5 years of suffocating loneliness, and he was finally hearing his mother's voice again. Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto? Hey lady, is your kid named Naruto too? Wow, what a crazy coincidence. Uzumaki Kushina. Naruto. My baby. Before Kushina could ask her son anything more, the screens flared to life, interrupting the chat. The broadcast will begin in 10 seconds. Please watch closely. 10, 9, 8. The comparison begins. Act 4. The original world a fleeting spark. The silver screen on the left illuminated, displaying a grim setting. Konoha Hospital. A 7-year-old Uchiha Sasuke sat frozen on a hospital bed, having just survived the horrific night of the Uchiha clan massacre. The young boy's eyes were completely dull, his small frame trembling violently with deeply rooted fear. His older brother's sudden, monstrous betrayal from the previous night played on a loop in his mind. The gruesome images of his parents and clan members lying in pools of blood were burned into his retinas. Just thinking about it made Sasuke's head throb with agonizing pain. His eyes grew bloodshot and swollen, as if a biological dam was about to burst. Orochimaru. Ah, the immediate aftermath of the Uchiha downfall. Exquisite. This is going to be highly entertaining. Uzumaki Kushina. That boy, Itachi? He actually killed you, Mikoto? He wiped out the entire clan. How is that possible? Kushina was utterly devastated. When she was alive, she and Mikoto were best friends, and she had known Itachi since he was a gentle child. He never seemed capable of such atrocities. Uchiha Mikoto. Alas, it is true, Kushina. The truth behind that night is incredibly complicated. It is not something that can be easily explained. Senju Tobarama. Look closely. It appears this young Sasuke is about to awaken his Sharingan, to witness the slaughter of his entire bloodline by his own brother. Let us see what level of power such extreme trauma unlocks. Senju Hashirama. Given how immense the trauma is, could he perhaps awaken the Manjikyu Sharingan straight away? Uchiha Madara. Don't be ridiculous, Hashirama. Do you think the Manjikyu is as common as wild cabbage? A 7-year-old child doesn't possess a fraction of the chakra required to manifest or sustain those eyes. Senju Tobarama. Even so, under such severe psychological stress, a single tomo is guaranteed. A 2 tomo would be standard. In the Pure Land, Uchiha Fugaku watched the silver screen intently, deeply invested in his youngest son's latent potential. Meanwhile, at the Akatsuki hideout, Uchiha Itachi remained entirely silent. He already knew exactly what those screens would show. On the screen, Sasuke's breathing grew frantic, his eyes turning a deep, painful crimson. Suddenly, his pupils shifted from black to brilliant scarlet. In each eye, a single dark tomo emerged. However, the manifestation lasted only a fraction of a second. The scarlet eyes vanished instantly, leaving the young Sasuke gasping for air, utterly drained of energy. Uchiha Fugaku, Orochimaru, Uchiha Madara, Hatake Kakashi. The chat room fell into a dead silence. They had been eagerly debating how many tomo the boy would unlock. And the result? A single tomo that lasted less than a second. If they hadn't been blinking, they would have missed it entirely. In the real world, the current Sasuke's face flushed with burning humiliation. Having his weakest, most pathetic moment broadcasted to the entire world filled him with overwhelming shame and rage. Senju Tobirama. An entire clan slaughtered, and he only manages a fleeting, single tomo? His talent is painfully mediocre. Why is a boy of this caliber the subject of a worldwide broadcast? Senju Hashirama. Ahem, Tobirama, the boy was only 7. He didn't have the chakra reserves to sustain a higher evolution. That is perfectly normal. Orochimaru. Indeed, Sasuke was raised in an era of relative peace. He lacked a proper sense of urgency, received no combat hardening, and lacked elite tutelage. His slow development makes sense. Orochimaru recalled his brief skirmish with Sasuke during the Forest of Death. He was still confident that under his personal guidance, Sasuke's true potential would explode to Kage level in no time. The silver screen continued to play. Following the awakening of his eyes, the ward door swung open, and the third Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, walked in. His face was a mask of gentle, grandfatherly sorrow. Sasuke, I never expected Itachi to commit such a heinous act. I have officially branded Uchiha Itachi as an S-rank rogue ninja. Konoha's forces will spare no effort to track and capture him. He stepped closer, placing a comforting hand near the boy. You do not need to worry about your safety. The village will protect you. However, returning to your clan compound right now, it will only deepen your psychological scars. I have arranged a new apartment for you in the secure, central district of the village. Hiruzen's voice was filled with warmth. If you ever need anything, come directly to me. I am the Hokage, and it is my sacred duty to care for every soul in Konoha. These kind words offered a lifeline to the shattered 7-year-old. With a face full of profound gratitude, young Sasuke whispered, "Thank you, Lord Hokage." In truth, he was terrified of returning to his old home. The Uchiha compound was a ghost town, stained with the fresh blood of his parents and neighbors. Moving into the central district felt like an escape from a living nightmare. From that day on, Sasuke lived alone, throwing himself into a relentless, grueling training regime at the academy. He forged a single, burning desire in his heart: grow strong enough to slaughter Uchiha Itachi. Senju Tobirama, Monkey handled that well. Even if the Uchiha brought ruin upon themselves, showing such compassion to a traumatized orphan is proper governance. Sarutobi Hiruzen, you praise me too highly, teacher. I merely performed the fundamental duties expected of a Hokage. Hiruzen secretly breathed a sigh of relief. His benevolent, protective image had been preserved flawlessly before the world. However, the rest of the ninja world wasn't buying it. Inoki, a 13-year-old boy suddenly goes rogue and single-handedly slaughters the entire legendary Uchiha clan overnight? Do you honestly expect us to believe that cover story? The fourth Raikage, I wouldn't believe a word of it. Terumi may. Indeed, if it was truly a sudden rogue action, how is it possible that the great third Hokage only found out after the entire clan was already wiped out? Deep within the foundation base, Shimura Danzo decided to stoke the flames. Shimura Danzo, regardless of the details, Sarutobi is the Hokage. For an entire founding clan to be exterminated under his watch, he cannot escape ultimate accountability. Hiruzen's blood boiled. It was one thing for foreign Kage to slander him, but Danzo, the very man who orchestrated the crisis? Sarutobi Hiruzen, Danzo, know your place. I am the Hokage of Konoha. For you, a ninja of this village, to chime in with foreign instigators to defame your own leader. What are your true intentions? Crash. In his underground bunker, Danzo slammed his fist onto his desk in a fury. Hokage. Hiruzen always used that title like a shield to silence him. For decades, he had been forced to swallow his rage simply because he lacked that title. Hiruzen. One day, you will regret your arrogance, Danzo muttered bitterly. Act 5, The Parallel World, The Calm Genius. The silver screen on the left slowly faded, and the gold screen on the right flared to life. Orochimaru. Ah. Now for the Uchiha Sasuke of the parallel universe. Let's see if this version offers a bit more entertainment. The original Sasuke stared at the golden screen, consumed by intense curiosity. Myself. In another world? How different could my life really be? The golden screen revealed the interior of Konoha Hospital. A 7-year-old Uchiha Sasuke sat quietly upon his bed. But unlike his trembling counterpart, this Sasuke's posture was steady. His brow was furrowed in deep, calculating thought. There was no terror in his eyes, nor any chaotic fluctuations of chakra. Uzumaki Naruto. Whoa! The Sasuke on the right looks even worse. His eyes aren't even watering. Is he stupid or just numb? Uchiha Sasuke. Shut up. Dead last. Keep your mouth shut. Senju Hashirama. I don't see a massive difference yet. Are we sure these two worlds split? Senju Tobarama? Look closer, brother. This version of Uchiha Sasuke is entirely composed. His emotional state is completely stable. Frankly, it is highly unsettling. It is completely uncharacteristic of an Uchiha. The observation sent a chill through the audience. The original Sasuke had been a hysterical, broken mess of fear, grief, and hatred. But this parallel Sasuke displayed an eerie, absolute calm. He wasn't crying. He was analyzing. Orochimaru. Fascinating. This child is fundamentally different. I am dying to know what thoughts are running through that brilliant little head. Uzumaki Kushina. Oh dear. Did the poor child suffer such a massive shock that his mind completely broke? Uchiha Mikoto. No, I don't think that's it. The screen provided a window into the parallel Sasuke's internal monologue. Yesterday afternoon, just as the academy was about to dismiss them, Iruka-sensei had abruptly announced a mandatory, late-night study session. They were kept at school for several additional hours, long after the sun had fully set. The moment school finally dismissed, Sasuke had rushed home, only to discover a compound filled with fresh corpses. The golden screen zoomed in on the boy's calculating gaze. An unannounced, mandatory late-night class? The academy has never done anything like that before. Why yesterday? Why did they force us to stay precisely until the entire compound was dead? And immediately after, Itachi claims he acted alone out of sudden madness? It's too perfect. It's a calculated trap. Boom! The chat room erupted into absolute chaos. Every major ninja felt a jolt of shock. A 7-year-old child, hours after his family was butchered, was able to suppress his grief, spot a structural anomaly in the timeline, and immediately deduce a political conspiracy? What kind of monster was this? Uzumaki Naruto. Wait, we had extra classes back then? How come I don't remember that? Haruno Sakura. Now that it's mentioned, I do have a vague memory of us staying incredibly late one day for no apparent reason. Yamanaka Ino. Me too. I remember complaining about missing dinner. Nara Shikamaru. Fascinating. I remember it perfectly. The day after that sudden late class, Sasuke was absent. The pieces fit together flawlessly. There is a direct correlation. Yumino Iruka. I remember now as well. That afternoon, I received a sudden, high-priority mandate from the Hokage's office, claiming there was a critical curriculum requirement that had to be fulfilled that very evening. Cold sweat poured down Sarutobi Hiruzen's face. He felt his heart hammering against his ribs. How could a 7-year-old child possess such terrifying deductive reasoning? Anoki. Ha! I knew it. A blatant, state-sponsored conspiracy. Terumi may, unbelievable, to maintain absolute cognitive clarity under such immense grief. This little brother is a terrifying prodigy. Orochimaru, well, Sarutobi-sensei, how do you intend to explain this official mandate? Hiruzen cursed the spectators in his heart. They were treating a catastrophic political leak like a casual theater performance. Stealing his nerves, he typed his defense. Sarutobi Hiruzen, do not jump to wild conclusions. The village intelligence network had detected highly unusual movements within the Uchiha compound that afternoon. I deployed forces to investigate, but by the time we breached the perimeter, the tragedy had already concluded. He continued weaving his narrative. The mandatory class was an emergency quarantine measure. We kept the children at the academy to protect them from wandering into an active, dangerous combat zone. Senju Tobarama, a logical operational safety measure. However, Monkey, the fact remains that a founding clan was wiped out right under your nose. Your administrative incompetence is undeniable. Sarutobi Hiruzen, your criticism is entirely just teacher. The crisis unfolded with unprecedented speed. As Hokage, I failed to respond in time, and I accept full responsibility for my oversight. Hiruzen wiped his brow. He had managed to pivot the narrative from a malicious conspiracy to simple operational failure. Act 6. Awakening of the True Prodigy. The golden screen pressed onward. Sarutobi Hiruzen entered the hospital room, delivering the exact same gentle, comforting speech he had given in the original world. I have arranged a safe apartment for you in the Central District, Sasuke. I will have the ANBU retrieve your personal effects. You never have to step foot in that tragic place again. But the parallel Sasuke's response completely shattered the script. The boy's eyes flashed with absolute resolve. Thank you, Lord Hokage. But I wish to return to the compound myself to pack my parents' belongings. Hiruzen visibly faltered on screen. Sasuke continued calmly. The tragedy has already happened. No matter how terrified I am, hiding from reality will not change the truth. Evading my grief will not solve anything. I have made my choice. Hiruzen stared at the boy for a long moment before nodding slowly. Very well. Sasuke, I am deeply proud of your immense fortitude, but if the environment proves too overwhelming, do not force yourself to stay. Remember, I am the Hokage, and I am always here to protect you. Sasuke bowed politely. I understand. Thank you, Lord Hokage. Hatake Kakashi. Incredible. This version of Sasuke isn't just intelligent. His mental fortitude and maturity are completely off the charts. Kakashi couldn't help but reflect on his own past. He too had suffered a catastrophic trauma at a young age. When he was 7, he walked into his home to find his father lying in a pool of blood, dead by his own hand. Kakashi remembered being a mindless, hollow shell for months afterward, completely unable to process reality, and he was already an experienced Chunin at the time. Yet this parallel Sasuke, facing the violent extinction of his entire bloodline, possessed the sheer emotional mastery to willingly march back into the slaughterhouse to face his demons. He was completely outclassing Kakashi's own childhood. On screen, accompanied by an ANBU escort, Sasuke stepped back into the Uchiha compound. The stone walkways were still stained with dried, dark blood. Dozens of masked ANBU operatives were actively moving in and out of the houses, bagging and transporting corpses. As he took in the grim sight, Sasuke's pulse finally quickened. The primal, dormant sectors of his Uchiha brain ignited under the intense emotional friction. His eyes grew hot and swollen. A clean, stable single tomo emerged within his dark eyes. But he didn't stop walking. Stepping directly through the dried pools of blood, he marched straight toward his family manor. Senju Tobarama. Remarkable. His ocular control is vastly superior to the original. He isn't just sparking the Sharingan. He is actively maintaining it with zero strain. Senju Hashirama. Awakening the Sharingan at age 7 is a grand achievement regardless. Madara. Do you remember when we first separated as kids? Is that when you awakened yours? How old were you again? Let me think. Uchiha Madara. Shut your mouth, Hashirama. Madara's eye twitched. Why did Hashirama always insist on dragging their childhood laundry into a public forum? Terumi Mei. Oh? Did the legendary ghost of the Uchiha awaken his eyes simply from the heartbreak of separating from the first Hokage? What an exquisitely tragic romance. Jiraiya. Ah, the legendary will of fire and the bonds of Konoha. To think such deep, passionate connections existed since the founding era. Senju Tobirama. I knew it. I always said your relationship with Madara was highly unnatural. Brother, it was entirely too intimate. Tobirama had always suspected his own brother valued Madara more than his own flesh and blood. Uzumaki Mito. Indeed, it was quite obvious. Senju Hashirama. Mito. Tobirama. Stop spouting nonsense in front of the entire world. Hatake Kakashi. Ahem. Everyone, shouldn't we be focusing on Sasuke's evolution? Orochimaru. Heh. Watch closely. A single tomo is nowhere near this boy's limit. The original Sasuke stared at the golden screen, his knuckles turning white. He felt a toxic mixture of envy and awe. We are the exact same person. Why is he so much stronger than me? The parallel Sasuke stepped through the front doors of his home. His parents' bodies had already been cleared away, leaving only two massive, dark outlines of dried blood on the wooden floor. Right here, just last night, father and mother were butchered by Itachi. An ocean of profound grief, burning fury, and calculation surged within Sasuke's chest. The pressure within his brain reached a boiling point. The single tomo in his crimson eyes began to spin at a violent, dizzying speed. The blurred afterimages of the tomo fractured, splitting cleanly into a second distinct tomo. Dual tomo Sharingan. Unlocked simultaneously in both eyes. A fully realized double tomo? The original Sasuke nearly choked on his own breath. This was blatant favoritism from the universe. He had barely triggered a single tomo on the night of the massacre, and didn't properly manifest it again until the Land of Waves, unlocking a second tomo even later. Yet this alternate version achieved a perfect dual tomo on day 2. Hatake Kakashi. The genetic and spiritual talent of this parallel Sasuke is terrifying. Kakashi glanced at his own student, then back at the golden screen. The disparity was staggering. In terms of intellect, mental resilience, and genetic potential, the parallel Sasuke was completely crushing the original. Orochimaru. Look, still going. He hasn't reached the ceiling. On the golden screen, the evolution didn't stop. The twin tomo in Sasuke's crimson irises continued to spin with violent velocity. The emotional feedback loop was intensifying, drawing deeper pools of dormant Uchiha chakra into his optic nerves. The pupils vibrated, on the verge of fracturing into a third tomo. Suddenly, the ANBU escort stepped forward, placing a firm, heavy hand onto the boy's shoulder. Calm your mind, kid. Control your emotions. If the strain is too much, I will sever the perimeter and escort you out immediately. The sudden physical touch broke Sasuke's intense concentration. The manic flow of chakra was disrupted, breaking the emotional feedback loop. The spinning tomo ground to a halt. The vibrant crimson receded, dissolving back into calm, deep black pupils. Sasuke took a slow, measured breath. No, I am perfectly fine. Orochimaru. What? Stopped. Who is that worthless ANBU grunt? How dare he interfere at the absolute critical moment? Orochimaru was practically throwing a tantrum. He was on the edge of his seat, waiting to see a 7-year-old manifest a 3-tomo Sharingan. To have such a historic evolution ruined by a low-level guard was infuriating. Senju Hashirama. Calm down, Orochimaru. The ANBU acted wisely. Forcing a 7-year-old child's eyes to evolve too quickly places an apocalyptic burden on a developing nervous system. It could have burned out his chakra pathways permanently. Sarutobi Hiruzen. The first Hokage speaks the absolute truth. The ANBU operative executed his duties flawlessly. Preserving the child's physical health must always take precedence over rushing his ocular development. In reality, Hiruzen was sweating bullets. A 7-year-old with a near-complete 3-tomo Sharingan who already suspected the village leadership? If that boy had unlocked his full power right there, Konoha would have been harboring a ticking time bomb. Hatake Kakashi. It is true. The physical tax of an advanced Sharingan is immense. Orochimaru. Humph. That is only because you are an outsider lacking the biological framework of the Uchiha bloodline. Kakashi. Jiraiya. There is no need to rush power. Growing steadily allows for a firmer foundation. A slower start often yields a far more stable peak. Orochimaru. Ha ha ha. Don't make me laugh, Jiraiya. To Orochimaru, physical strain was a trivial hurdle. If the body couldn't handle the eyes, you simply modified the body. You graft Hashirama's cells into the kid's DNA, exactly like Danzo did. In the grand scheme of things, raw, unadulterated talent was everything. If that ANBU hadn't interfered, that boy might have pushed straight to the Manjikyu in a matter of weeks. Uchiha Fugaku. The latent ocular talent of this Sasuke surpasses even Itachi at that age. Uchiha Mikoto. I only pray that his strength serves to protect him, rather than destroy him. On the screen, the young parallel Sasuke quietly navigated the silent rooms of his empty home. He carefully inventoried the remnants of his family's life, systematically categorizing what to salvage. His parents' personal keepsakes, the family photo albums, the classified Uchiha ninjutsu scrolls, a selection of historical literature. He packed everything into efficient, organized seals and travel bags, silently bidding a final, dignified farewell to his childhood home. Later that evening, under the shadow of his ANBU guard, Sasuke moved into his newly assigned apartment in the Central District. Sitting alone beneath the dim light of his new room, he began systematically cataloging the items he had salvaged. From the bottom of a ceiling chest, he pulled out a thick, heavy volume. The title reads, The Comprehensive History of Konoha, published personally by the Uchiha clan. Act 7, The Banned History. In the Pure Land, Uchiha Fugaku stared at the golden screen in surprise. That book. It's a Konoha history book published directly by our clan. The village leadership officially banned it years ago. He had kept a single copy hidden away in his private study. He never expected that the Sasuke of the parallel world would find it and carry it away. Hearing this, Sarutobi Hiruzen's expression darkened. In the early days of the village, various noble clans had published their own historical records. Later, under Hiruzen's administration, those private records were banned, and the Ninja Academy was forced to adopt a unified, village-sanctioned historical textbook. He hadn't anticipated that the alternate Sasuke would stumble upon a surviving copy of the Uchiha's forbidden archives. Logically speaking, the ANBU should have swept the Uchiha compound immediately after the incident, Hiruzen thought, his mind racing. Critical assets, such as high-ranking forbidden jutsu scrolls, were confiscated right away. As the clan head's manor, Fugaku's residence was thoroughly searched. Yet, the ANBU completely overlooked this forbidden text. Then again, it makes sense. It's just a book. Even if it was technically contraband, the investigative squads wouldn't place much priority on a piece of literature. It's just a text, Hiruzen comforted himself. Even if the boy reads it, a single book shouldn't have much of an impact on his loyalty. In the chat room, the observers noticed the boy's choice. Hatake Kakashi. It looks like the parallel Sasuke is deeply intrigued by that text. Uzumaki Naruto. A history book? Man, that sounds incredibly boring. Why is that version of Sasuke so obsessed with it? Orochimaru. Heh, this is becoming utterly fascinating. I find myself looking forward to this alternate Sasuke's future more and more. Most ordinary ninjas in the chat were equally perplexed. It was just a history book. What could it possibly reveal? If the boy had time to read old archives, he would be far better off throwing himself into physical conditioning to exact his revenge. Act 8. The Deduction of a 7-year-old. The golden screen shifted, focusing on the parallel Sasuke's new apartment. Inside the quiet, unfamiliar residence, Sasuke sat cross-legged on the floor, closing his eyes as he organized his thoughts. What variables can I absolutely confirm right now? First, regarding Uchiha Itachi. He was either a genuinely kind and loving older brother, or he is a power-hungry psychopath who slaughtered his own bloodline. One of those personas is a total fabrication. Second, regarding the truth of the massacre itself. If Itachi could completely invert his personality and morals overnight, it proves a fundamental truth. People cannot be trusted blindly. Those who appear gentle and benevolent on the surface can harbor the darkest malice. Since even his own brother, a person he loved and trusted implicitly, proved to be an illusion, then no one in this village, regardless of their status or kindly appearance, could be taken at face value. What was the real story behind the annihilation of his clan? If he couldn't trust Itachi's words on that bloody night, then he certainly couldn't trust the official narrative provided by the village authorities. As these realizations crystallized, a violent tremor ran through Sasuke's small frame. After all, he was only a 7-year-old child. For a boy of his age to confront and accept such an isolating reality was a monumental psychological burden. No one could be trusted. As he looked out over the sprawling landscape of Konoha, he realized there was not a single soul he could rely on. He was utterly, entirely alone. Namikaze Minato, incredible to possess that level of systemic doubt and analytical clarity at just 7 years old. The fourth Hokage had been hailed as a once-in-a-generation prodigy since his youth, but in terms of sheer emotional independence and critical thinking, he felt his childhood self was vastly inferior to this parallel Sasuke. If he had been placed in the exact same catastrophic scenario at that age, Minato knew he would have been entirely consumed by grief, unable to piece together the socio-political anomalies. Uchiha Mikoto, oh my poor Sasuke. The path ahead of him is far too lonely. Uchiha Fugaku, this is the burden of an Uchiha. Given his circumstances, it is far better that he realized this early. As his parents, we can no longer guide him. We can only watch and pray. In the real world, the original Sasuke sat in a daze, his mind reeling. He had never once stopped to think like his parallel self. He had never questioned why Itachi had suddenly changed, or which version of his brother was the real one. He had simply accepted the hatred fed to him. He had never stopped to analyze the structural inconsistencies of that night. Beyond just training blindly, shouldn't I have paused to contemplate my own trajectory? Sasuke thought, a wave of self-reflection washing over him. I shouldn't just swallow every narrative handed to me. Who is to say the people guiding me now are truly trustworthy? Act 9, Rekindling the Fire. The gold-framed screen illuminated further. Sasuke opened his eyes, his gaze hardening. Having established his foundational rules of distrust, his immediate path forward became crystal clear. First, in his daily interactions, he would carefully observe and vet every individual, testing their credibility from a distance. Second, he would consume every piece of literature available to him, clashing official histories against private records, to deduce the hidden truth behind the massacre through raw logic. Since human testimonies were inherently corrupted, literature and systemic analysis were his only reliable metrics. He would read, analyze, and uncover the truth on his own time. Of course, gathering intelligence was only half the battle. The other half was absolute power. Uncovering the truth would mean nothing if he lacked the physical strength to enforce his vengeance once the perpetrators were brought to light. Sasuke's dark eyes grew immensely deep, shimmering with renewed vitality. The spiritual spark that had been nearly snuffed out by Itachi's blade the night before was suddenly rekindled, burning brighter and fiercer than ever before. I will rely solely on myself. I will uncover the conspiracy, and I will forge the power necessary to exact my vengeance. Deep within his heart, Sasuke cemented his resolve. The fourth Hokage, a mere 7-year-old child, expects to untangle a high-level political conspiracy entirely on his own? Audacious. Inoki. Absurd. I, the great Uchiha, have deployed my entire intelligence network and still haven't fully pierced the fog surrounding the Uchiha downfall. Yet this little brat confidently claims he will solve it through reading? Ridiculous. Orochimaru. Heh. Haha. Genuinely extraordinary minds never conform to the limitations of the masses, Lord Sasuke. Senju Hashirama. It fills my heart with joy to see such exceptional analytical brilliance emerging in the younger generation of the village. Senju Tobarama. Though he bears the volatile traits of the Uchiha, I must concede, the boy possesses the mind of a true operational genius. In the real world, the original Sasuke's eyes burned crimson with intense jealousy. His Sharingan spun rapidly, fueled by his agitation. They were the exact same person, yet his 7-year-old self in the parallel world was receiving unprecedented praise from legendary Hokage and foreign leaders alike, while he was viewed as a reckless avenger. Act 10. The flaws in the official narrative. The golden screen detailed the boy's methodology. Sasuke opened the forbidden history of Konoha, published by the Uchiha clan. His expression deadly serious. To find the hidden truth, I must first master the recorded past. By the time the midnight oil had burned down to the wick, Sasuke had meticulously cross-referenced decades of Konoha's history, establishing a comprehensive timeline of the village's major political shifts. The Senju and Uchiha clans co-founded Konoha as equals. Yet, the Senju produced the first and second Hokage. The third Hokage was a direct disciple of the second. The Uchiha, conversely, have been entirely excluded from the supreme seat of power. During the Second Shinobi World War, Konoha's White Fang, Hatake Tsukumo, achieved historic military feats that eclipsed even the legendary Sannin. Yet, due to a massive, weaponized wave of public smear campaigns within the village after he prioritized saving his comrades over a mission, the White Fang was driven to suicide. In the Third Shinobi World War, the Yellow Flash, Namikaze Minato, displayed unparalleled dominance, outmaneuvering Orochimaru for the mantle of fourth Hokage, only to perish shortly after during the Nine Tails tragedy. Following the Nine Tails crisis, the Uchiha clan was placed under intense state surveillance and forcibly relocated to the absolute periphery of the village. The third Hokage stepped back into power, yet a fifth Hokage was never appointed. Then, in Konoha Year 50, Orochimaru, the prime candidate for the Hokage seat, defected from the village. Sasuke slowly closed the history book, staring at the final chapter detailing Orochimaru's defection. Though many events lacked granular operational details, the sheer macro-level overview of Konoha's historical milestones was remarkably comprehensive. As a mountain of data swirled through his mind, Sasuke pinched the bridge of his nose, easing the mental strain. What was the underlying pattern behind these seemingly disconnected tragedies? The single most prominent constant is the absolute longevity of the third Hokage's regime. Sasuke let out a quiet, calculated sigh. Ever since the First Shinobi World War, when the second Hokage appointed him, Sarutobi Hiruzen had held the reins of the village for over 30 continuous years. Sasuke's eyes narrowed as a cold hypothesis formed in his mind. The third Hokage has controlled the political architecture of Konoha for over 3 decades. Is it structurally possible for a ruler of that caliber to be completely oblivious to an operation as massive as the total liquidation of a founding clan right inside his own borders? There are only 2 logical conclusions. First, the narrative the third Hokage gave me is the absolute truth. Second, the third Hokage is actively suppressing critical elements of the conspiracy. Statistically speaking, which outcome is more probable? Inoki? Is that even a question? How could an old fox like Sarutobi possibly be left in the dark about an entire clan being slaughtered overnight? The fourth Raikage? Exactly. If the third Hokage were truly that incompetent, that shadow-dwelling darkness of the shinobi would have usurped his position decades ago. Hiruzen's face burned with intense shame. He never imagined that the standard propaganda he approved to maintain civilian morale and student loyalty would be picked apart by his dead masters on a universal stage. Senju Tobarama. I suppose I can comprehend the operational necessity. As Hokage, it is standard practice to artificially elevate your administrative authority to secure institutional stability. However, Monkey, you must be exceptionally careful not to use my brother's legacy as a stepping stone for your own reputation. Sarutobi Hiruzen. Of course, teacher. The corrections will be implemented immediately. Inoki. Setting aside the hilarious claim of being the strongest, Sarutobi, the sheer scale of your historical censorship within your own academy is truly breathtaking. The fourth Hokage. It appears the third Hokage's real-world authority was so fragile in his twilight years that he had to rely on rewriting children's textbooks to maintain his cult of personality. Orochimaru. Heh. Should I offer my formal gratitude? Sensei? After all, your censorship completely erased the embarrassment of my defection from the public eye. Kakashi remained entirely silent in the chat, a deep, old ache reopening in his chest. Seeing his father's historic contributions systematically minimized to a footnote in the official records felt like a profound betrayal by the system he served. Senju Tobarama. Suppressing volatile or disgraceful institutional failures is standard protocol for any village, but Monkey, the sheer volume of high-profile disasters under your watch is deeply concerning. Deep within the Pure Land, Tobarama shook his head. From the internal destruction of the White Fang, to the defection of a Sannin, to the total liquidation of the Uchiha, these weren't minor administrative slip-ups. These were monumental historical catastrophes involving the village's elite vanguard forces, none of whom died facing an external enemy on the battlefield. They were consumed by Konoha's internal friction. Senju Tobarama. Monkey, you have grown entirely too old. Your administrative grip is slipping. You must select and appoint a fifth Hokage immediately to stabilize the village's foundation. Sarutobi Hiruzen. Your guidance is absolute, teacher. I am already evaluating suitable candidates for the succession. Hiruzen wiped the sweat from his neck, relieved to have survived another round of scrutiny. Act 12. A quiz with a bloodline reward. Back within the academy classroom, Sasuke rested his chin on his hands, his thoughts coalescing. He was faintly grasping the macro-level pattern. The internal destruction of the White Fang, the sudden elevation and subsequent death of the Yellow Flash, the Nine Tails crisis, the defection of Orochimaru, the systemic isolation and ultimate liquidation of the Uchiha. There was an invisible, underlying thread connecting every single one of these structural catastrophes. If he could locate the source of that thread, he would be standing face to face with the ultimate architect of his clan's demise. Yet, despite his immense deductive capabilities, his current lack of high-level classified data prevented him from making the final connection. Clap, clap, clap. Orochimaru actively applauded the screen. Brilliant! The Uchiha Sasuke of that world is a magnificent specimen. To independently identify the macro-political thread of Konoha's internal purge at 7 years old, truly spectacular. Sarutobi Hiruzen's brow furrowed into a deep scowl. Orochimaru, cease your treasonous fabrications. Orochimaru sneered. Whether it is a fabrication or absolute reality, Sensei, you and I both know the truth. The Sannin knew exactly what lay at the end of that thread. His former master had sat on that throne for too long, completely compromised by the addiction to absolute control. From the engineered downfall of Tsukumo to the systematic destruction of the Uchiha, the underlying motive was always the preservation of the central administration's authority against rival powerhouses. Sasuke spent the entire morning parsing the redacted data, his young brain exhausted from the sheer volume of comparative logic. A sharp wave of dizziness hit him, his stomach growling fiercely. Only then did he realize a critical oversight. He hadn't brought a bento. In the past, his mother had meticulously prepared his meals every morning. Now there was no one. Absorbed in his nocturnal research and rushing out the door, the practical realities of survival had slipped his mind. Seated nearby, Yamanaka Ino instantly noticed Sasuke's predicament. Her eyes sparkled as she swiftly approached his desk, presenting her beautifully packed lunchbox. Sasuke-kun, did you forget your lunch? If you don't mind, would you like to share mine? I packed plenty. Before she could finish, Haruno Sakura materialized on his other side, pushing her own container forward. Sasuke-kun, you should eat mine instead. I personally prepared all of your absolute favorite dishes today. Please, take it. Sakura's internal monologue screamed with absolute triumph. Her months of meticulous espionage regarding Sasuke's culinary preferences had finally paid off. To ensure she was prepared for a moment exactly like this, she had forced herself to cook his favorite meals every single day. Her dedication was finally bearing fruit. Uzumaki Naruto. Hey, what the heck? I've been begging Sakura to share her bento with me for years, and she treats me like dirt. But she's practically begging stinky Sasuke to eat her food. Yamanaka Ino. Sakura, you calculated little monster. To think you were running a long-term culinary operation behind my back. Haruno Sakura. This is called tactical preparedness, Ino. Fortune favors the organized mind. In reality, Sakura was screaming in absolute horror inside her own mind. Why on earth was this universal broadcast showcasing her private, embarrassing infatuation to the entire shinobi population? She looked like a desperate fanatic. Ding! The prize-winning Q&A session has commenced. Question: how will the parallel world's Uchiha Sasuke respond to the competitive lunch invitations from Haruno Sakura and Yamanaka Ino? Option A. Assert that domestic entanglements will only degrade the velocity of his kunai throwing techniques, completely ignoring them. Option B. Maintain his identity as a tragic, solitary avenger, coldly rebuking them until they retreat in fear. Option C. Accept their invitations with calculated grace, expressing sincere gratitude for their logistical support. Option D. Accept their invitations, actively cultivate a harmonious harem dynamic, and enlist their cooperation to begin the immediate biological restoration of the Uchiha clan. Jiraiya. A harmonious harem dynamic? Is that phrasing implying exactly what my professional research suggests it implies? Hatake Kakashi. I believe so. Restoring the Uchiha clan. From a purely biological standpoint, there is only one methodology to achieve that objective. Ebisu. The analytical solution is singular. The boy must secure multiple spouses and maximize his reproductive output to replenish his clan's demographic footprint. Terumi Mei. Ha! Men truly are entirely predictable creatures, regardless of the universe. Uchiha Sasuke. What kind of disgusting garbage are you people spouting? The real-world Sasuke's face flushed an intense crimson. He had never once entertained a single domestic thought in his life. Ever since the night of the purge, his entire existence was a monoculture of training and hatred aimed squarely at Itachi's throat. Girls were completely irrelevant variables. Did interacting with them increase his chakra capacity or optimize his fire style? No, they were a waste of tactical time. Inoki. The boy is simply too young to understand macro strategy. The fourth Raikage. Indeed, as the absolute sole survivor of the Uchiha bloodline within Konoha, his primary strategic objective should be the immediate dissemination of his genetic legacy. The broader the distribution, the safer the bloodline. Uchiha Fugaku. An impeccable strategic assessment. As the former clan head, I endorse this course of action. I select option D. The original Sasuke stared at the chat in absolute horror. What is wrong with my father? Why would he choose such an outrageous, unprincipled option? It was fundamentally impossible. Even in an alternate universe, a true Uchiha bearing a catastrophic blood feud would never waste his pristine focus and physical stamina philandering with civilian girls. Uchiha Sasuke. I select option A. This was the only selection that aligned with his internal psychological profile. Hatake Kakashi. Based on my behavioral tracking of the alternate version's psychological maturity, I select option C. Deep within the Foundation headquarters, Danzo stared at the interface, his pulse quickening as he noticed the standard answers being claimed. The broadcast system had promised absolute, tangible rewards of high-tier power. If this entity possessed genuine reality warping capabilities, he needed to secure an advantage. Shimura Danzo. I select option B. Sarutobi Hiruzen. Danzo? Even you are participating in this theater. Danzo sneered internally. If the rewards were a sham, he lost nothing. But if they were authentic, a massive injection of high-grade power could instantly tip the political scales, allowing him to finally dismantle Hiruzen's regime and claim the mantle of Hokage. Act 13. The True Power of the Rewards. The golden frame resumed playback. Sasuke looked at the radiant, hopeful faces of Sakura and Ino, his analytical mind evaluating the variables. He was entirely alone now. His daily schedule was optimized to the minute between academic lectures, physical conditioning, and historical research. If he forced himself to allocate scarce operational time every single morning to source ingredients, cook, and pack meals, his overall training efficiency would degrade by at least 5 to 7% weekly. Therefore, outsourcing his nutritional logistics to willing civilian assets was the most logical optimization strategy. Furthermore, the assets themselves appeared explicitly eager to absorb the economic and physical labor costs. With his decision made, Sasuke offered Sakura and Ino a warm, perfectly executed smile. "Thank you both. I would be incredibly honored to share lunch with you, Sakura, Ino." Both girls froze, completely paralyzed by the gesture. They had attended the academy with Sasuke for nearly a year, transforming themselves into fierce rivals to pierce his icy exterior. This was the absolute first time they had witnessed him smile. A warm, profoundly sincere expression devoid of any Uchiha coldness. For a moment, they felt entirely overwhelmed with validation. Without hesitation, Sakura and Ino swiftly divided their meals, seating themselves on either side of the young prodigy as they enjoyed lunch together. Once the meal concluded, Sasuke offered a polite bow, his expression carrying a faint, perfectly calculated touch of vulnerability. "Sakura, Ino, if it wouldn't impose an unfair burden on your schedules, would it be possible to arrange this logistical support moving forward? Given my current domestic isolation." Sakura's eyes practically turned into stars as she slammed her hands on the desk. "It's no trouble at all. Not even a little bit. I will personally oversee your nutrition every single day, Sasuke-kun." Ino rapidly chimed in. "Absolutely. Though I do have a single structural condition. You must promise to consume your meals exclusively alongside us every afternoon." Sasuke nodded in immediate agreement, though a slight touch of genuine confusion crossed his mind. Why did these assets appear not merely compliant, but overwhelmingly ecstatic to absorb his living costs? It felt as though they were the ones receiving a massive dividend, rather than the ones providing free labor. Terumi May. Ah, delightful. The little handsome guy understands the utility of his own charms perfectly, even if he doesn't fully comprehend romance yet. Uchiha Mikoto. Fufufu. As expected of my brilliant little Sasuke. Uzumaki Naruto. Damn it, damn it, damn it. What is so great about that arrogant bastard? Why does everyone crawl over themselves to do his chores? Rock Lee. The burning intensity of youth. Oh, how I envy Sasuke-kun's privilege to receive a handcrafted meal from the lovely Sakura every afternoon. Inazuka Kiba. Humph, he just has a pretty face. If I clean myself up a bit, I could easily pull off that exact same routine. My aesthetic value isn't low either. Aburame Shino. Kiba. Statistical reality demands that we maintain a baseline of objective self-awareness. Sakura and Ino in the real world glared at the screen with absolute envy. Though their alternate selves were technically being utilized as free catering assets, to receive that level of direct, warm, exclusive attention from Sasuke was a dream come true. They wished they could tear through the dimensional barrier and switch places instantly. Hatake Kakashi. Well, the behavioral matrix is clear. The analytical solution is confirmed. A booming voice resonated across the global broadcast. Ding! The correct resolution for this Q&A session is option C. Congratulations to the participant, Hatake Kakashi, for securing the correct designation. Dispersing reward. Absolute Uchiha genetic lineage alignment. Instantly, a profound, highly refined torrent of ancient spiritual energy manifested within Kakashi's physical body. A pristine current of specialized chakra surged from his brain, traveling directly into his left eye sockets, perfectly re-engineering his neural and biological pathways. The Sharingan. It's deactivating? Kakashi slowly lowered his hand from his left eye. For the first time in over a decade, the three-tomo Sharingan cleanly faded away, reverting back to a standard dark gray human eye. The transplanted eye, which had acted like an insatiable, crushing parasite draining his chakra reserves every second of his waking life, was now fully integrated into his biology. His body now possessed the authentic genetic code of the Uchiha, allowing him to suppress, activate, and utilize the ocular prowess with zero physical tax. With the constant, suffocating drain completely removed, Kakashi's long-suppressed, massive baseline chakra reserves instantly surged back to their true, unhindered peak. A profound sense of absolute physical liberation washed over him. Incredible, Kakashi murmured, clenching his fist as a massive aura of raw chakra naturally flared around his body. What? Inside the root compound, Danzo completely lost his composure, slamming his cane into the floor. The Uchiha bloodline alignment, the exact corporate solution he required to stabilize his own horrific arm modifications. If he had secured that reward, Shirsue's Manjikyu and the dozens of eyes embedded in his flesh would be fully synchronized, removing the volatile reliance on Hashirama's cells. He had missed a literal god-tier upgrade. Kakashi had never felt this pristine since the day Obito had gifted him the eye. The constant, aching neurological fatigue was entirely gone, replaced by a roaring ocean of pure, unrestricted physical power. My guy, incredible! Kakashi, your physical aura has completely transformed. The fires of our youth are roaring. We must engage in a legendary, full-power friendly duel the moment this broadcast concludes. Hatake Kakashi. Heh, understood, guy. This time, I won't have to limit my stamina. Orochimaru, the entity, is entirely authentic. It possesses the capability to alter genetic structures and disperse authentic bloodline components instantly. Orochimaru's eyes gleamed with manic, dangerous ambition. This comparison room was a literal treasury of cosmic power. He needed to analyze the logic of these questions with absolute precision moving forward. Across the 5 great nations, every single missing Nin warlord and Kage felt a profound, ravenous hunger for the upcoming quizzes. Jiraiya. Setting aside the sheer scale of that reward, Kakashi, how on earth did you deduce option C so confidently? Yumino Irika. Indeed, based on my personal observations of Sasuke's cold demeanor at that age, option A or B felt vastly more character accurate. Kakashi closed his right eye slightly, offering his trademark relaxed gaze as he explained his logic. You are evaluating our world's Sasuke. Our Sasuke became completely hyper-fixated and paranoid after the massacre, forcing himself into an isolated, anti-social shell. Therefore, our Sasuke would naturally default to option A or B due to emotional trauma. However, the gold Sasuke on the parallel screen possesses an entirely superior level of emotional regulation and mental maturity. He views his environment structurally, not emotionally. He recognizes the utility of cooperation and maintains a polite, socially optimized demeanor to preserve his training efficiency, rather than wandering around with a permanent scowl. The original Sasuke's veins throbbed against his temple. Permanent scowl? Is that how the entire village perceives me? Senju Tobarama, an exceptional analysis. But why exclude option D? Given the total demographic collapse of his family line, prioritizing reproduction to rebuild the clan's military and political footprint is a textbook clan head directive. Hatake Kakashi. That choice relies on another long-term behavioral observation of mine. To put it frankly, the men of the Uchiha bloodline are universally terrible at managing or pursuing romantic dynamics with women. A collective cough echoed across the global audience. Every seasoned shinobi who was taking notes was left completely speechless. What kind of absurd conclusion was that? The Uchiha was a legendary, 1,000-year-old clan. If they were naturally inept with women, how did they manage to populate an entire military district? Uchiha Madara. What did you just say, you insignificant brat? Inept with women? Hatake Kakashi, you will clarify that slanderous statement immediately. Uchiha Fugaku. A grotesque fabrication. If our line lacked romantic competence, how exactly did we sustain our demographic dominance across generations? Kakashi held up his hands defensively. Please, allow me to clarify the operational definition. What I mean is that the masculine psychology of the Uchiha clan consistently prioritizes high-intensity rivalries, intense fraternal bonds, and partnerships far above standard romantic or domestic relationships. Look back through your own historical archives and evaluate the primary emotional anchors of your most prominent figures. It is always a brother, a rival, or a singular partner. Kakashi thought about his own team dynamics. In his current Genin squad, Naruto and Sasuke fought, clashed, and tracked each other's progress every single hour of the day. Their mutual focus was absolute. Sakura, conversely, was completely relegated to a social buffer. In Sasuke's cognitive framework, Naruto's existence occupied an infinitely vast space compared to Sakura. Senju Tobirama. Evaluating that claims against my historical combat data with their clan. Your hypothesis is remarkably sound. Their psychological fixation is almost exclusively adversarial or fraternal. Senju Hashirama. Tobirama, what kind of ridiculous historical data are you parsing? Hatake Kakashi. Precisely. Therefore, while the parallel Sasuke is perfectly willing to utilize Sakura and Ino as high-efficiency logistical assets to handle his nutrition, he views them purely as tools. He harbors zero domestic or romantic intent toward them, completely invalidating option D. Sasuke was on the absolute verge of an absolute breakdown. This cosmic broadcast wasn't just comparing universes. It was systematically stripping away his privacy and broadcasting his innermost psychological vulnerabilities to the entire global population. And yet, look at the original Uchiha Sasuke. When he finally graduated from the Ninja Academy at the age of 12, the system considered him an excellent genin at best. The structural contrast was staggering. Seeing an opening, Orochimaru smiled subtly, his message flashing across the universal screen. Uchiha Sasuke, if you truly wish to quickly increase your strength to achieve your goals, you can always choose to come to me. I possess absolute confidence that my personal teaching ability and experimental methods are vastly better than Jiraiya's traditional routines. Hatake Kakashi immediately intervened, his warning sharp and urgent. Sasuke, do not allow yourself to be fooled by his words. Orochimaru cannot possibly harbor that kind of good intention toward you. In the real world, the original Uchiha Sasuke remained entirely silent, his eyes fixed on the interface. If he could continue to secure powerful, reality-warping rewards through this universal question and answer session, he would have absolutely no need for Orochimaru's dangerous teachings. Suddenly, the silver-framed screen paused its playback, freezing on the imagery of the original timeline. Immediately following the pause, the gold-framed screen on the right flared to life, continuing the journey of the alternate universe. The parallel world Sasuke worked infinitely harder in his daily training, spending a vast majority of his time practicing physical conditioning and chakra manipulation every single day. To maintain this hyper-efficient routine, he systematically streamlined his life, saving time on other mundane tasks whenever possible. The preparation of his daily food was left entirely to Sakura and Ino, who happily managed his nutrition. Even his standard Ninja Academy homework was handled with absolute efficiency. To complete his written assignments, Sasuke only needed to look at his classmate and recite a single, polite phrase. "Thank you, Sakura-chan." Upon hearing those words, the utterly compliant tool Sakura would become overwhelmingly happy, eagerly taking his notebooks to complete the assignments on his behalf. Soon, the day of the Ninja Academy's formal practical assessment arrived. The training grounds were packed with spectators. Cheers of "Come on, Sasuke," and "Sasuke is the absolute best in the world" echoed continuously across the field. Almost all the civilian and clan girls in the class were cheering frantically for the young Uchiha. Watching this display, the male students were naturally very dissatisfied. Uzumaki Naruto, Inuzuka Kiba, and several others were loudly clamoring among themselves, desperate for a chance to step onto the field and make Sasuke look bad in front of the crowd. Umino Irika stepped to the center of the ring, holding open his clipboard as he loudly announced the next matchup. The next group will be Uchiha Sasuke versus Uzumaki Naruto. Inuzuka Kiba's face flushed with pure rage, his teeth itching with absolute hatred as he glared at the gold frame. A bunch of rookies pecking at each other. The Sasuke over in that universe is entirely too annoying to tolerate. Orochimaru laughed out loud, his amusement echoing through the chat. Haha, this is truly fascinating. I genuinely do not know how this brilliant version of Sasuke will choose to bypass this systemic limitation to practice next. I highly hope his solution will be entirely different from the standard path.